Our region's business is sponsored by PNC for the achiever in you. Our region's business, improving our economy, creating jobs, and strengthening communities. Innovation, collaboration, transformation, and the people making it happen. Join us as we take a closer look at our region's business. Now, here's your host, Bill Flanagan.
Today on Our Region's Business, it is a holiday weekend, so we're going to visit the Pittsburgh Zoo and see how 2 decades of investment have turned a former city department into a top visitor attraction for our entire region. Plus, tourism in general is a growing economic engine for our region. But first, these are challenging times for the big metals companies that continue to call our region home. Despite billions of dollars of investment in technology to improve their competitiveness, they've been battered by cut-rate foreign imports, often dumped below cost, they say, by China and other competitors. Yet a strategic shift appears to have come just in time for another historic Pittsburgh company, Koppers. The manufacturer saw trouble ahead for its biggest customer, the aluminum industry, and shifted its focus to wood preservation, and the decision appears to have paid off. Leroy Ball is the guy who made the decision. He's the president and CEO of Koppers Incorporated, and welcome. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me.
And I should mention, a native of our region to boot, right? Beaver County guy?
Beaver County, Monaca, born and raised, sure. Still live down in that area today.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So I get to run one of the great historic Pittsburgh companies as well.
It's amazing to have that opportunity.
Yeah, so for folks for whom Koppers has been off the radar screen, a little bit about what it is you guys do.
Sure. Really today, the core of our business centers around developing products to preserve and enhance wood. And we have 3 basic business segments, and at the core and heart of each one of them is that core of treatment and application of preservatives to enhance wood. So we have our railroad and utility products business, which basically takes chemicals that we produce in our other 2 businesses and applies them for treating wooden cross ties in North America and utility poles in Australia. We have our performance chemicals business segment that produces waterborne preservatives that essentially go into residential decking and also goes into utility poles. And then we have our old legacy carbon material and chemical business that produces creosote and other products, but with the creosote basically being consumed within our railroad group, again, to preserve wooden cross ties for the railroad industry.
So one of the Pittsburgh companies that ties into our heyday as the
Absolutely.
Great railroads were heading west.
Sure.
and populating the continent. Koppers took advantage of that back in its early history. But this has been a shift. This focus is actually something kind of new. You've been in the business a long time,
right.
But what came about there? What was happening in I guess what was originally the aluminum industry that led you to this focus?
Yeah, Bill. Actually, if I was sitting here probably 18 months ago, I would certainly be describing the company differently. It would be a company that at that point was really focused on growing our business primarily on the carbon material and chemical side around the global growth in aluminum, and that's where the focus of the company had been. Now, we did buy the performance chemicals business, that waterborne preservative business, in late 14, and we bought it as really a diversification effort to add another platform for us as we saw some weakness on the carbon material and chemical side of things. But really, as I kind of shifted into this role, and one of the first things we did was step back and take a look at the business and see where some of these markets were going and where they've come from. When we did that, immediately you could see how the aluminum industry has really changed over time in terms of where product gets produced. So if you go back to the early 70s, essentially aluminum production in North America and Western Europe made up 65% of global production.
Wow.
Okay, 2000 it was down to about 40%. Today it's less than 15. Okay, so our legacy facilities, were really in Europe. They were in Western Europe. They were in North America. We do have a facility in Australia, and we had started to make some inroads into putting operations on the ground in China to go after some of that global growth, which a lot of it's coming from China.
I would imagine on the Far East, sure,
yep.
Yeah.
But the issue that we faced there was, since we put our first distillation facility on the ground in '99, 88% of the capacity, the distillation capacity that's in China today, came online since we put our first facility in '99.
Wow.
So obviously that's increased competition dramatically.
So now much harder to get an inroad into that market. You sort of missed that market opportunity to really get in early.
Well,
right?
we got in early. The problem was the massive growth there. A company our size certainly couldn't keep up.
Couldn't scale at the level
that you would need to.
But still a big shift to say this is a business that was our business for many years, and now we're going to shift to another piece of it.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, back in 2008, so before the global financial crisis, that business, the carbon material and chemical business, driven by aluminum, made up 2/3 of our revenues and 80% of our profits. 80% of our profits.
Wow.
This past year, it was down to a little over 30% of our revenues and 6% of our profits.
Unbelievable.
So it necessitated a change in focus.
Radical change, but yet you're going into a business that I think was probably perceived at the time as being sort of our sleepy, more commodity type business. You know, it's the kind of thing CEOs tried to avoid, right?
Right. It certainly, we had to take a long, hard look at what the opportunities were, and it was difficult to make the decision to shift, because not only that, you have the whole cultural aspect of it as well, where we have, a company of employees that we're used to that being the bedrock of the company, and now we're saying, well, it's still important, but we're gonna have it move to the back seat a little bit, and we're gonna focus on this other area, which you still contribute to, but it isn't going to be the linchpin of growth anymore for us.
And that's a cultural shift that you have to help everybody navigate and get behind it. Any secret to sort of get the whole team aligned around it?
I think just being upfront and forthright with the employees, and that's what we've tried to do from the beginning. The message wasn't an easy message, but what I've found over time is, if you're direct and you're upfront and you're honest about what you're trying to do, while the people might not like what they're hearing, it gives them the ability to process it and feel like, again, that the company's being upfront and forthright with them, and they'll eventually get on board. We found that. I mean, it's been a better process and an easier process than I think what I even thought coming in.
Well, honesty counts for a lot. Only a few seconds left, but I got to ask you. You have your name on the skyline now on your building, and you just got the strikeout sign at PNC Park. Your presence is smaller in Pittsburgh in terms of employment.
Yep.
So why are you going after that sort of visible presence here in town?
It was a way for us to get a little more public profile around our corporate giving efforts, and really add around the civic pride that I would like our employees here in Pittsburgh to have, and really actually across the globe. You'd be surprised at people that I talk to at some of our other facilities outside of Pittsburgh, who, when I'm there and I say, hey, I saw that you got the case on in PNC. That's really cool. That's really neat, and it gives them something to feel good about, and certainly I think helps from an HR standpoint.
Well, it's terrific. I mean, congratulations on the strategic shift and the continued success of Koppers, and even more for your continued commitment to Pittsburgh. We sure appreciate it. Leroy Ball.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right.
And when we return, we'll find out how years of strategic investment have turned the Pittsburgh Zoo and PPG Aquarium into one of our region's top visitor attractions. Stay with us.